Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, the final results are here for the altcoin crypto cup, and we can see Sneck has won. But there is some drama surrounding this, ladies and gentlemen, because although Turbo did get second, a lot of people that hold Turbo are saying, wait a second, something doesn't add up. And that's because, ladies and gentlemen, right, people are claiming that when you go and look at some of the other posts back from October 1st, we can actually see that Brett won over Sneck. And somehow Sneck got to the finals and won over Turbo. But Sneck should never have been there, right? Sneck should have never been there. And we all know, ladies and gentlemen, let's be honest, because we've done this before, and just even the activity on Twitter and social media, just everywhere, right? We all know Turbo clears Brett every single day of the week. And that, I'm not just saying that because I'm making a Turbo video. I'm saying that because it's the truth, right? Brett is a mediocre coin at best. And yeah, Turbo clears it in every single aspect. Okay. It clears it in every single aspect. So here's the deal, right? Sneck shouldn't have even been in the final. So people do believe that this was and should have been a Turbo win, right? But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, remember this is more for fun, but definitely, our beloved Turbo did get robbed. Now, just to clear up some confusion from the last Turbo video, when I said, ladies and gentlemen, that I did sell Turbo, I wasn't talking about my spot. I wasn't talking about the amount of Turbo I bought over, let's just say, the years at this point. I was talking about a leverage trade on the ninth, right? On the ninth, I was up 80%. And of course, that was much higher when on the 10th, everything dumped, right? On the 10th, everything dumped. So we took a sell somewhere on the 8th. And then the ninth, I showed the picture that we were up currently. And then the 10th was a very nice payday. But I did not sell any of my actual supply. I just took a contract trade to the downside because I was looking to target at the bare minimum these lows like we've been talking about for some time. So yeah, and I didn't have a take profit. I didn't have anything. I just held it open. And ladies and gentlemen, that was when this thing tanked and I saw the whole market minus 70%. It was a beautiful day in terms of the leverage trade. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, before we go into the charts, let's look at some of the basics. We can see, ladies and gentlemen, when we go search up Turbo, we rank 193 out of 9,490 active cryptos. So here's the deal, right? Here's the deal. We are losing our ranking, which is not ideal, right? This is going to be one of the first times in a very long time that we're close to being out of the top 200. So I know that's not the most ideal, but historically, Turbo has always pumped first and has seen the most amount of decline before it pumps once again. So we can see, ladies and gentlemen, we're around 200 million market cap, 56 million volume, right? We're listed on all these beautiful exchanges. When we go to the amount of holders, we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that we are actually rising fairly quickly. So people have been buying during these dips, these slower points, because remember, we were kind of flatlining for roughly upwards of 2 weeks, right? Roughly upwards of 2 weeks. And now we've seen some type of resurgence to the upside. So that's actually fantastic. A lot of investors see an opportunity. A lot of people see the vision with Turbo. And I'm not surprised they do because it's still one of the best and hottest meme coins to be accumulating during these dips. Overall, in the last month, ladies and gentlemen, we are down almost 33%, so not ideal. In the last 7 days, we are down 21%, and in the last day, we're down 2.26%. When we go to the actual technical analysis, right, we can see that on the weekly, right, we did close a lower low, right, which is not ideal. Boom, right, we closed below this low, so we did form a lower low for the first time in a very long time. And we can see, ladies and gentlemen, we are still forming lower and lower highs, right? We have a high here, we have a lower high here, we have another lower high here, and I'm just going to continue to mark these up, right? We have lower and lower and lower highs. And just in case you are new, just in case you are confused, right? It is the blue one, right? We can see that we consistently going lower and lower and lower with the blue one. And as of right now, we're not looking that strong. Now, I do think overall that we will see some type of resurgence in the next couple of days or weeks, even overall, right? Overall, I do believe the market in terms of altcoins, is going to have to bounce off certain zones. Now it's hard to say because if I go to something like the 5 minute, I could see there being a order block all the way down here at the 0.0014 area. Now, does that mean automatically we're going to tap into a 5 minute zone? Not necessarily, but it's something we have to have into consideration, right? I remember these tap ins can just be like 15 minutes. It doesn't even have to be long lasting, but that is something we are looking out for just in case, there is going to be a sniper opportunity. That's one of the zones we'd be looking for. Overall, we do have still fairly bearish structure. Yes, we kind of have been pushing to upside in the last couple of days, but that's because we've seen a huge dump on Friday. So it's always expected you're going to see some type of resurgence. Ladies and gentlemen, we did fill up the CME gap, which is very, very ideal. So I'm looking for Bitcoin to start flipping, right? And you might be curious, well, Bitcoin dropped, down to 105K. How's this 110K gap not filled? And that's because, ladies and gentlemen, after hours, this none of the data counted. So when we dropped to 105K, that was after 4 o'clock. That was after Friday, 4 p.m. Um, so yes, like for CME gaps, it just did nothing, right? It did nothing. So that's why we went down here. That's why everything's kind of down right now. Overall, I expect Bitcoin to start seeing recovery, and I will be monitoring Turbo. Right, for me, this is still a good time to be buying. If the weekly candle does end up fairly, very weak, then we could see continuations, sell-offs next week, possibly, like I said, to one of these zones down here. But we are going to be monitoring everything. That is ultimately it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy. Right, I know the market has been going crazy. Hopefully, people that took leverage trades, just be careful with leverage trades overall, ladies and gentlemen. They are very, very dangerous. They are very, very risky. Someone like me, I got rewarded heavily because I took a sell, but the people that were holding buys for a very, very long time, they got wiped out. And yeah, that's why in general I don't like taking long-term trades when it comes to leverage trades because the market makers, man, I tell you, the market makers, speaking about that, we can go look at something like the volume for Turbo. And sure, like this was decent volume, 50 million, 30 million. But at the end of the day, people, right, we see much higher volume for Turbo on average. So 50 million of, even if we do 50 million of volume for something like Turbo, that didn't take out such a huge percentage. Okay. Like, let's just be real, right? The last, say, 2 hours of the dump, 50 million of volume did not take out 71%. That was just pure calculation, and that was pure manipulation by the market makers. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.